Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Lab4U Talks, our podcast at Lab4U. And once again, I have with me Nathan Marks. Welcome once again, Nathan, to join us in this crazy experiment of podcast.
Thanks, Komal. Glad to be back.
Awesome. In the previous episode, Nathan, we spoke about the achievement gap in the US. We spoke about a little bit about your experience as a teacher in the US, in Mexico. And in this episode, I would like us to go deeper a little bit on your experience working with schools in the US, in Mexico, as the head of Lab4U North America. In the previous episode also, and I invite everyone to listen, Nathan spoke about some of the deeper problems that we have in our educational systems and the equity problem, and he mentioned some of the work that Brookings has published. So I highly recommend that one. But today, Nathan, why don't you tell us, to solve this problem and add for a better future, to think about a better future, what can we do today? And what are you doing today as head of Lab4U's North America office?
Yeah, so in the last episode, we mentioned a little bit sort of like big picture policy changes that we could be doing to ensure a more equitable education system in general, and then also to ensure that in this time of distance learning, we can be more proactively working so that all students have access to quality education, even if they're not able to physically attend schools. I'm obviously not currently based in the US, and I am not making policy. I'm here in Mexico City right now, where I've been for the last few months. Been riding out COVID-19 from my apartment, and I'm working on as head of Lab4U in North America, trying to figure out how we as an organization can be working to move the needle in whatever way we can to make sure that students have access to tools for learning during this time. So, we talk a lot at Lab4U, Komal, about the importance of technology as an equalizer, as a way to get students from all backgrounds access to meaningful learning experiences. We also talk a lot about the importance of having a robust pedagogical model to back up that technology. And we talk about the third sort of pillar, which is the importance of having teachers who are trained and well supported, and who can learn from one another and who can learn from experts. And so we're trying to bring that philosophy to the schools that need it most. It's a challenge here in Mexico.
Indeed. Yes, it's a challenge everywhere. And you said it in the previous episode, and we're mentioning it here, where technology is a means to an end, is not the objective.
Yeah.
Because even if we give tablets and iPhones and iPads and all the technology in the world to teachers and students, that's not enough, right? We need to think of the right pedagogy.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that I think as an industry, ed tech is growing and is maturing.
Absolutely.
And is moving
Yes.
away from this idea that technology alone is the solution.
Absolutely.
Which is really important, I think. And so we're excied to be at the cutting edge of this right now here in Mexico. And there's a couple of new programs that we're really excited about.
Yeah, and in ed tech, it's education technology where education comes first. It's not technology first, it's education first. So through technology, how can we solve a problem? And in Lab4U, in this mission to democratize science and change the way science is taught, we are transforming smartphones into science labs. So Nathan in Mexico has an amazing program that is running at the moment during a pandemic. I mean, which is incredible to think, how can we get to the communities that need it the most? Nathan, can you tell me, what are you doing at the moment in Mexico?
Yeah, we've got a really exciting project that we launched just a couple of months ago. It's actually part of a bigger project that we had with a couple of allies here in Mexico, among them the US Embassy in Mexico and CEMEX, which is an important cement company, construction materials company. And we had been working with them in the state of Veracruz and in the state of Nuevo León. So Veracruz is on the Gulf Coast. It's a really, really big state, a pretty diverse state, about 8 million people. And Nuevo León, which is a state in northeast Mexico, sort of anchored by the Monterrey metropolitan area, which is one of the most important industrial centers in Mexico.
Right.
But, the last episode, we talked a lot about inequality. Monterrey, in spite of being one of the wealthiest cities in Mexico, is also a very unequal place. And I think Veracruz has a different set of challenges. A lot of students living in rural areas where infrastructure isn't great for learning during regular times, right?
Right.
So we had been working with a couple of groups of teachers in those states, but when we moved from in-person teaching and learning to remote teaching and learning in mid-March, along with a lot of the rest of the world, we saw that a lot of the teachers that we had been working with were working in schools that very abruptly went to online instruction or remote learning, and we knew that there were a lot of other teachers out there who really needed and wanted tools to be working with their students. They didn't want to be just having their students read or turn in homework based on the reading that they were doing. They wanted students to be doing meaningful things in their science classes, and so we were able to work with some of these allies to launch a scholarship program. And the scholarship program is aimed at teachers first, because one of our big learnings the last few years is that in order to really impact students, the best lever we have is to go through their teachers. And so we prioritized, searching for the most committed teachers in public schools in Mexico, and we're able to offer 40 of them the opportunity to work with Lab4 Physics in their science classes in the last few months of the school year. And it's a program we're really, really excited about.
Yeah. So what you're saying, Nathan, here is like implementing this program in communities that need it the most, where you and your team have been teaching the teachers, like the trainer program, where Lab4U has been the trainer for these teachers, where Lab4U is helping teachers with solutions like Lab4 Physics, where we transform the smartphone into a science lab using the sensors that are already built in smartphones, like the accelerometer, the microphone, the camera, and I mean, Nathan, you've shared with me how teachers are actually sharing these experiences with you. Tell me a little bit, if you have an anecdote, tell me an anecdote.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got, like I said, 40 teachers who are part of this program. They are located in 7 different states in Mexico. Many of them are in Veracruz state, where we already had a program up and running. And so we were able to, there's already a lot of buzz around the work that Lab4U is doing. We had a ton of applicants from Veracruz. We know that there are a lot of teachers like that in other parts of Mexico who are really hungry for solutions like this. But the way it worked was we, selected these teachers. One of the most important things was that they were willing to innovate in science instruction. They're willing to kind of take a dive into the unknown with us and to try out tools that they had never used before with their students. And another really important criteria for the selection was that they understand the importance of inquiry and experimentation in the science classroom, because this is a little bit more work. It's a little bit more work to plan an inquiry-based learning experience for students than it is to give a traditional lecture-based science class. But we also know that the learning is much more significant, long-lasting, and meaningful for students when they have the chance to learn by doing, no? And so we have this group of 39 teachers. I think one of the most exciting things about these teachers is that it's just been a joy to work with them because they really want to be in this program and they really want to learn not just from us, but also from each other. They're really open to sharing their experiences. They're open to sharing photos and evidence and videos and screenshots of all the work they're doing with their students. And I think the most inspiring thing for me is about half of these teachers, especially the group in Veracruz, are working in a school system called telebachillerato, which is like tele high school. So they're schools that are pretty remote and that generally have teachers teaching multiple subjects. So these teachers are really committed. Many of them live in these communities with their students. They're rural communities that may not have consistent internet access. They may not have consistent electricity. Even there are blackouts in some of these communities, especially now that it's rainy season here in Mexico. But in spite of all those challenges, the evidence we've been getting back, the photos, the stories from teachers have been really, really amazing. We've got a teacher in Sinaloa. His name is Miguel Angel, who's been working with us throughout this project. He is working with a group of students. And the semester has formally ended here in Mexico just a couple weeks ago. We're on a schedule that's similar to the US school calendar. But in spite of classes having ended, he's working with a group of students that are voluntarily continuing to do physics experiments in their free time, and they're connecting via Zoom. They're sharing their work via Google Classroom. They've got a community on WhatsApp where even some parents are chiming in and sharing evidence. It's been really cool to see Miguel Angel and his students working in Sinaloa. And I've got a ton of other stories from other places, Komal. I don't know how much time we have.
No, absolutely. A big shout out to Miguel Angel there for inspiring his students to experiment. So you said three things that are very important to me and to us at Lab4U. One, inquiry-based learning. The importance of having inquiry-based experiments and just going through this learning process, and the pedagogy is important because the traditional class. I mean, you can have a class through Zoom, like a traditional class on Zoom, but that's just showing the traditional PowerPoint or the traditional formulas, right? You can do that. I mean, you're using technology, you're using Google Classroom, you're using Zoom, but the methodology and the pedagogy might still be the same traditional one, where we know that knowledge goes from the screen to the student's pen or note, and that's it. It's not a deeper understanding of science. And what you mentioned here about inquiry-based learning, about that process that we have where we ask students to think with a real-life example, to measure and to analyze the real data of those experiments is so important. So that's one thing that that you share is so important to the work we are doing, right?
Yeah.
It's not just technology. And the second thing you said about with the groups that you're building with the students and the teachers, more of the teachers, the community of practice, right? You once told me that you've got several groups in your phone, like WhatsApp groups. Like, tell me more about those WhatsApp groups and the importance of the community of practice within the teacher community.
Yeah, I would love to. I think going back to your first point, you talked a little bit about the importance of hands-on learning experiences. And that reminds me of another teacher from Veracruz who shared that her students, since they've been working in this program, have lost their fear of making mistakes. I think,
important.
Yeah, and in science classes and math classes and STEM subjects in general, I think we have this sort of collective mindset, which is they're really hard, they're really, they're just not for everybody, they're kind of dry, they're kind of boring, they're super technical. And I think that's based on this traditional teaching model that prevails in a lot of parts of the world, definitely here in Mexico, also in a lot of schools in the US, where, students are experiencing science as sort of secondhand, right? They're experiencing it as, I need to learn about science. I need to learn about the work that other people, real scientists, quote unquote, did. but they're not actually engaging in the scientific process themselves. And I think it's been really interesting to see, in spite of the challenges of distance learning and not being able to access physical lab space, just like getting students the access to the technology through a smartphone, which is what we do at Lab4U, has been tremendously impactful just in shifting mindsets among students. And it reminds me what's possible, even when we're in a challenging time as educators. Really exciting to see that mindset shift among students, and I do think it's related to the hands-on learning piece. And then to your other question, Komal, about how are we moderating these communities of practice, and what are they good for? Why are they so important? What we did in this program was open up all kinds of channels of communication with these teachers who are participating with us for the next few months. One thing obviously was an onboarding at the beginning, which we had to do virtually because teachers are scattered all over the country. But it was a really rich space with a lot of dialogue, a lot of questions, a lot of sharing about each teacher's unique circumstances. And then after that session, we've been offering weekly spaces for teachers from this group to connect if they're able and would like to. It's an open space where they can ask questions of the Lab4U team, and where they can also ask questions of each other and share some of these exciting things. We had a couple of teachers sending photos of their students. One did the moonwalk experiment and actually dressed as an astronaut, had a Mexican flag that the student, I actually don't know if it was a boy or a girl because they were wearing a helmet. But the student placed the Mexican flag as if he or she were landing on the moon. So, really like fun to see students innovating and getting motivated and excited about science. So it's been cool to have those spaces every week or so. I feel like I really know these teachers, and I feel like they're getting to know each other. I hope that the program can continue with the support of allies over the next few months. And I hope that the relationships that these teachers are building with one another can transcend this project, and that, we can be, I hope that we're building bonds and a relationship of, just a learning community that can continue to exist organically between these teachers, even when this program ends. It's been really motivating and energizing.
Yeah, I know that like the community is so important between the teachers and having a good moderator like you and your team that is helping and creating these spaces. I mean, because once you create the space, the teachers are going to share their experiences and realize that what's happening to them is happening to the other teacher, and the challenges are the same, and the questions that the students are asking probably similar. So I love the communities of practices. I understand the importance of it, and I think if we can support communities of practice around the world, in the US or in Mexico and the rest of Latin America, it's so important. Absolutely. And what you said about inquiry being a pedagogy that we know it works, and just as an example, a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, with the Inter-American Development Bank, we actually ran an impact report, a randomized controlled trial in the state of Sinaloa, Mexico. This program was tested in schools with Lab4U and schools without Lab4U, and what this RCT found is that students who run more than 3 experiments increase their interest to pursue a STEM-related career. So if we can inspire students to actually, experiment and see the world around them, and with their phones, have this hands-on experience, as Nathan is explaining, we believe that we can inspire them to become the next Einstein or Marie Curie's, or the next engineers and scientists that are going to solve the world's biggest challenges.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure that we have students in this group who are, having their minds changed about whether or not science is for them. We've been getting some anecdotal evidence back from teachers who are saying, I never realized that this student could could get excited about science, but now he's signed up for our science club, and they're using Lab4Physics with us, 3 days a week after school. This is a student who was maybe disengaged in the traditional science class and who now is, thrilled to be experimenting and actually, taking the initiative to go out and do research above and beyond what we're suggesting they do in the lab report. So it's really exciting to see students kind of taking charge of their own learning, and that's thanks to this group of really committed teachers. So I really do want to shout out our community of teacher leaders in Veracruz, in Sinaloa, and all the 7 states that we're working with. And also just to reiterate how hopeful we are to be able to scale this program to reach more teachers in the future and more students in the future. Because like you said, Komal, we know STEM is super important. We know that STEM professions are in high demand. We know that they're stable jobs, they're secure jobs, and they're also needed not just for students to be successful as individuals, but also for our communities, our societies to progress in the future. And we need STEM professionals to solve the biggest problems facing humanity right now.
Absolutely.
And so we are excited to be a part of that, and excited to work with others who are, aligned with us in that vision.
Yeah, this scientific literacy and scientific empowerment for a better future of the workforce or present workforce, right? For a better economic progress. And a big shout out to the supporters of this program, the US Embassy and CEMEX, who have made this possible in Mexico. Learnings that I get from you and this program and this episode, the importance of pedagogy, inquiry-based learning and inquiry, not only technology, but technology is, as a tool, but the objective should be the learning of the student and that pedagogy aspect. Second, the communities of practice, the importance of these communities, and third, which allows us to inspire students to be the next change makers and to get inspired by the love of science.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's been exciting to see. I don't want to minimize the challenges of this time, right? But I think we need to be focused too on the things that we are learning and kind of failing quickly and learning from our mistakes and trying to take the best of the knowledge we've been able to gather and bringing it to more communities. So really excited to keep moving on this.
Absolutely. And on that note, I thank you, Nathan, and all the teachers that are out there, moving forward, regardless of all the challenges, and all the students and all those who are supporting for a better education in Latin America and in the world, in the US and everywhere. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening. Thank you, Nathan, for all the work you do, you and your team. Everyone has been amazing, and hopefully the next Einstein or Marie Curie can be in one of these cities that you mentioned.
I think they are. And again, thank you for the invitation, Komal. So excited to be here, and I hope we can talk again soon.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye.